Hey everyone! Welcome to Serving Up Plumbing with me, your master plumber, David Butler. Today, we're going to be talking about sump pumps. Now in the previous video that you can see the link to, we talked about sump pumps versus sewage ejector pumps. Well, today we're going to bring it down and talk just about sump pumps themselves. What do they pump out? Everything about them. But before we do that, please hit that subscribe button, give it a thumbs up if you like this video, and let me know what you'd like to see in the future. Now, let's see what we can do with a sump pump. Well, as I mentioned earlier, sump pumps and sewage ejector pumps, two different things, two different properties. Every now and then, a sewage ejector pump may be used as a sump pump, not usually the other way. Sump pumps usually don't have the same large opening and aren't made to pump the solids that a sewage ejector pump will. Sump pumps, as the word says sump, means that it's a pump in a pit. The definition of sump, which is on your plumbing test, for those of you that are going to test for Texas's state license, it asks the question about what is a sump. Well, a sump is a pit that is emptied by some type of mechanical means. With sump pumps, we're talking about storm water. Sewage ejector pumps, we're talking about sewage water. Let's just talk about sump pumps. What is going into a sump pump, first of all? Well, there can be a lot of things. A sump pump could be in a basement, which there's a lot of them. In almost every basement up north, there's sump pumps because water can get down in the basement and fill it up. We don't have that many basements in North Texas area, so most of our sump pumps are either outside of a house or under a house, and they are legal to code either way. It's better to have them outside the house because it's much easier to service them. Plus, you can see it. If the pump ever fails, the water can overflow and not flood under the house. There are things you can add to the pumps, though, that can prevent that. You can add alarms and that sort of thing that will go off if the pump fails. But we were talking about where they are. They go under the house, they go outside. You might have one where you have a low spot in the yard, a low spot in the garage driveway or in the garage so that it keeps the water from building up in your garage. But again, we're talking about all pumps that are pumping storm water, groundwater, rainwater, not sanitary sewer water, not sewage, not gray water, not black water. These pumps are to catch overrun from a storm, just high water table that might be underground. There are some houses that just live in areas and are built in areas that water comes up from the ground and it's at a high level, the water table we call it. If that's the case, we may have to put some sort of subsoil drainage in going into this pump. I've even done lots of commercial buildings where we had to run subsoil drainage around the entire perimeter of the building and bring it all back to a pump. And those pumps are on a much larger scale, as you can see in some of the pictures we're showing. Those pumps can be huge. I've done them as big as 12 feet deep and 4 foot in diameter, and catching all the water, running all the time into these pumps. They never stop because of the groundwater. Rainwater comes into a lot of sump pumps. A lot of people put them in because maybe your alley or your driveway is lower than the street or lower than the alley. Your driveway goes downhill towards your garage, or maybe it goes downhill from the street towards your front door. Well, all the rainwater is going to follow that direction. That can build up a lot of water and it could come in your house. Now, one thing we're talking about here, these pumps are not made to prevent flooding. You never want to depend on a mechanical apparatus or mechanical device to prevent Mother Nature from doing what it can do. We know from things that have happened that floods happen. You cannot stop the flood. What we can do with a sump pump is get rid of the water after it rains. Now, it can help slow down the rising water, but you never want to depend on a pump or put a pump in or ever tell a customer that we're going to put this pump in and it's going to fix all your problems and your house is never going to flood. Because too many things can happen. First of all, it can be just Mother Nature being something that she's never been before. More water than has ever come down before, and it can overrun a pump. What if the power goes out? Because usually when the water's coming up, we've got lightning, don't we? So we could lose power. If the power goes out, you don't have a pump. So the pump could fail. The pump could get stopped up with debris. All kinds of things. So when we put in a sump pump to protect a customer's home from storm water, rising water, rainwater, we always have to make sure that they understand this is not a fix to prevent a flooding. The only way you can do that type of thing is make sure that property is graded properly, the land is in such a way that the water can never rise high enough to get in a home or to get in a certain area. So do not ever plan on telling someone that a pump is going to protect them from flooding. What it will do is, if there's standing water in a place or it holds water a long time or anything else like that, it will pump out the water and be gone. Something else you need to know, what size of sump pump do we need? Well, most of the time here at Milestone, and we're service plumbers, we're not designing and installing a pump system, we're replacing a pump that's already there. So most of the time, if you're a service plumber, you're going to replace a sump pump with the same size that's there. You pull the old pump out, you find out what the horsepower is, what the gallons per minute is, how much head it will pump, which that means how high do you have to pump the water. Most of the time we're not having to pump it that high, but depending on the elevation of your yard, you could be having to pump it 8-10 feet. Depending on the depth of your sump pit, you could be pumping it higher, because you have to take that in consideration too. The head is gravity, basically, that we're working against. How far is it from the top of the pump, or where the water connects onto it, to the highest point before it starts having gravity flow back down and flowing out on its own gravity flow with slope. We have to make sure we have the right pump size for the right thing that we're doing. If you're not just replacing a pump that was there and you're installing one, then you need to make sure that the system's designed to handle the amount of water that you figure is going to be carried by that pump. Too small a pump, it's going to overwork the pump, and it's going to not do the job you need to do. It's going to take a long time to get rid of the water. Too large a pump, it may pump out too fast, it may do other damage, it may wear itself out or overwork itself just because it's pumping a lot less, or it may not work properly. There's several things that can go wrong if the pump is not sized correctly. These pumps need to be serviced. Again, this pump could be a sump that is a minimum of 18 by 24, which is what the code says, or it could be as deep as 16, 18 feet deep. They do get trash and debris in them, right? Dirt goes in them, sticks, stones, pebbles, all of that kind of stuff. The pump needs to be set in the bottom of the pit where it's not setting right on the bottom, or at least the legs of the pump need to hold it up off the bottom to where it doesn't get all the sediment that builds up in the bottom of the pit stopped up inside the bottom of the pump. These are all things you need to consider when you're doing a sump pit and a sump pump. Oftentimes, these pumps have two different kinds of float switches. One float switch on them may be connected to the pump. It's actually mounted on the pump and floats up and down. Another type is what we used to call a mercury switch, which is a float that is on a long wire. And it's especially used when we have really deep sump pumps. That way, the sump can have the water level adjusted by where you put the float switch. And they're all float switches, no matter what you do. But that float switch determines how much water the pit will hold and how much it'll pump out and how far down it'll pump. You don't want a pump to short cycle. You want it to be able to hold water, not come on until it has to. That way, you're not short cycling the pump, you're not overworking it, you're not going to wear it out before it should. You also want to make sure there's nothing that can get in the way of the float switch. Oftentimes float switches will get hung up because they float up and float back down. Something wasn't done right. You have to make sure and try and imagine every scenario that that float switch could get in as the water floats down so that it doesn't hang up. Because if it hangs up in the up position, that pump's just going to sit there and stay running and it's going to burn up, because these pumps are made to be having water around them. So that's what keeps them cool. So you want to make sure that the float switch is done correctly. You test it, you fill it up several times. Now, one last thing, the float switch oftentimes is what goes bad. The pumps don't always go bad. There are some pumps you can replace the float switches on and some you cannot. You generally do not open up a pump. They are water sealed from the factory. If you do open up a pump or take anything apart or any wiring or anything on it, it'll generally void the warranty. So if the pump's not working, if you can bypass the switch of the float to see if the pump will kick on, then you know it's the float switch. So if there's any way to do that, that's a good way to do it. If you can lift up on the float that's connected to the pump and test the float switch, then that's a good way to do it. If it just won't come on, also make sure and check your power. Sometimes they can trip the power because of a GFI or something of that nature, and that's all it is. If a pump is tripping the GFI all the time, a lot of times it's the pump, and it has gotten water inside it that is now making a ground fault problem. Make sure you get an electrician involved on some of those too. One last thing, alarms. You can add an alarm to a pump. That means the alarm is generally either a high water alarm or an alarm saying that the pump's not working anymore, and they're kind of one and the same. If the water's too high, then that generally means the pump's not working, right? But it could just mean that it's raining so hard that it's overrunning the pump. So you do have the ability to put alarms on them. These are very important usually when you have a pump under a house. Not so much a problem if you've got it outside the house. These pumps generally need to be close to the house too. So that's also the reason a good thing is to have an alarm, so that if that pump's overflowing and it's close to the house, it's not going to do any damage to the house if it's not working properly or if it's overflowing. You want to try and have some way that the water can get away, not mechanically, but physically, like an overflow. Just like on a dam on a lake, they have a spillway usually. That means if the water gets too high for the dam, it'll go out the spillway. You kind of need some kind of backup plan like that if it's at all possible. If the water gets a certain height, it needs to go somewhere other than doing damage to your home. Just remember, don't depend on a pump to beat Mother Nature. Mother Nature's always going to win. All right, sump pumps. Most important thing I want to make sure people understand about sump pumps is you got to service them, you got to maintain them, you got to clean them, and you don't ever say they're going to solve a problem and not let your house flood. Sump pumps get rid of water after the rain stops. They don't fix it before it starts. They get rid of water from a flood of a leaky pipe in a basement or that sort of thing. But they don't fix it for Mother Nature. So, a lot of information about sump pumps. I hope this has helped. I hope you understand the difference now between a sump pump and a sewage ejector a little better. We're going to do another one on sewage ejector pumps very soon. So please watch that one also. Look forward to seeing you next time. And don't forget to tell your friends, the Butler did it.